Welcome to lecture 5 on Kant's philosophy of self in the critique of pure reason. Now it's been a while since I gave lecture 4, and I've been pretty busy for the past 5-6 weeks, and I didn't have enough time to give lecture 5. So my apology for making you wait so long for this 5th lecture. Another reason why I have been away from this series is that although my writing has been downloaded more than 9,000 times. I mean, my Kant's philosophy of the self has been read by more than 9,000 people by now, but not too many people have watched this series of videos. So my lecture series are not as popular as my book. Maybe I don't speak English as well as I write English, so that maybe people don't use my videos as much as they enjoyed my paper. But about a few days ago, I got young man named Jaden. He made a very good comment on my lecture series, and so I was encouraged by him to start again this series of lecture, because Jaden, I think he's in 20s. I don't know. Maybe he lived in Palm Beach. And he said he was very looking forward to the next lecture of this series. So I decided to give this lecture 5. Now, in the end of lecture 4, I said that I would go over chapter 2 again. But looking back, when I saw my own lecture, I mean lecture 2, I talked about chapter 2. So I don't really have to go over again chapter 2. So I pretty much said everything I had to say on chapter 2 when I gave lecture 2 in July. So maybe I'm not talking about chapter 2 again. Plus, after chapter 2, it's pretty natural for me to talk about chapter 3. But the thing is, I talked about space and time in lecture 4, and I talked about the differences among the intuition. The differences, they're according to Kant, the sensible intuition, non-sensible intuition, intellectual intuition, pure forms of intuition. Space is a pure form of outer intuition, and time is a pure form of inner intuition. Those are the things I talked about. And chapter 3, just wait, this chapter, I suppose you have my writing when you watch this video. This chapter 3, time and the phenomenal self. I read this before I started I started taping this video, and although chapter 3 is about the time, this okay, you see chapter 3. When I talked about space in lecture 4, I mean, what I said I explained enough about intuition, and even if I go into this chapter 3, I've just talk about the pretty much the same thing as I did in lecture 4. Kant in the Transcendental Aesthetic, he talked about both space and time, but he spent more time and more passages on space. I mean, he talked a lot more on space than time. But I pretty much maybe do the same, because on although I didn't talk enough about time, I talked a lot about forms of intuition. So and I talked even if I talk about time today, the lecture won't be much different from lecture 4, in which I spoke so much about space. Even if I talk about time as a form of inner sense, or form of a pure form of inner sensible intuition, what I would say, it won't be much different from what I said about space as a pure form of intuition in lecture 4. So I'm going to skip I'm going to skip chapter 3, because chapter 3 is pretty short and you can do it on your own. And for those of you who forgot what I said about the differences of views on space among Newton, Leibniz, Kant, I'll show this this again. I mean, some people express that they want to know the difference among Newton, Leibniz, and Kant. This is what I wrote and showed you in the last lecture, but I showed it only for a minute, and some people wanted to write this down. So for Newton, empty space is necessary, and for Leibniz, empty space is impossible. For Kant, empty space is possible. I mean, empty space is not necessary, but empty space is possible. That's Kant's view. And for Leibniz, empty space is impossible. But I think Descartes pretty much share the same view as Leibniz. Well, Kant really doesn't talk about Descartes in the Critique of Pure Reason. I mean, he talks about the Critique of Pure Reason in the refutation. I mean, Kant talks about Descartes in the refutation of idealism, but in the Transcendental Aesthetic, he doesn't really talk about in the Transcendental Aesthetic. But Kant tries to mediate between Newtonian physics and Leibniz metaphysics, and Kant has the Kant's view on space and time also in between Newton and Leibniz. And Descartes' view of empty space is a lot like Leibniz. I didn't write down Descartes here, but that's what I want to tell you. Okay, that's enough. And today, I want to talk about chapter 4, the problem of many minds. The problem, okay? This is the chapter we want to talk about. The chapter 4, the problem of many minds. Because this is the core of my writing. And the problem of many minds is something Kant seems never to have thought of. Kant is a great thinker. Kant thinks so much. Kant thinks so deeply. Kant thinks about the mind, what the mind is. He talks about activity of the mind, which Bob Wolff calls mental activity. But he never thought about many minds, Well, he never thought about other minds. He only thought about his own mind. See, that's the problem, or that's the weakness of Kant's philosophy. I go, the problem of many minds is what Kant never pondered. All right? Now, what he says, Kant says about the mind or activity of the mind is very precise. But how about other minds? Now, he talks about the phenomenal self and noumenal self, or empirical self, and the self in itself. He also talks about transcendental unity of our perception. What are the relationship? Well, you can say, as Kant says, I know myself, not as I am in myself, but only as I appear to myself. I know myself only I'm inwardly affected by myself. So I don't know myself. I don't know who I am. I just know how I appear to myself. See, Kant's philosophy is based on the appearance-reality distinction, and the self is no exception. Even when I come to know myself, I know myself as appearance, not as I am in myself. I know only my phenomenal self, but I don't know my noumenal self. I know myself as appearance, phenomenon. I know my empirical self, but I don't know my real self. That's the problem. I can't explain those things very precisely, but he just forgets that there are many people on this earth. There's not only one human being. I mean, Kant never got married. He lived by himself for his whole life. He didn't have a wife. He didn't have children. So he spent lots of time by himself. Maybe that's why he never thought about the other people, the existence of other people. He never thought about the other minds. The only mind he thought about was his own mind. Because except when he gave lectures in his classroom at the University of Königsberg. He just walked home, and he just spent lots of time alone in his house. Doing what? Writing critique of pure reason. So he didn't have much time with associating with other people. Namely, he didn't really think about other minds. Except when he was teaching in a classroom. So he never really thought about the relation between other minds and his own mind. Now, how do I say? There are about 6 billion people on Earth. The world population is about 6 billion, maybe 7 billion, but just say 6 billion. So there are 6 billion people means there are 6 billion phenomenal selves, or there are 6 billion empirical selves. That's easy. Like the phenomenal self or empirical self is, what we usually call a person, is a man or a woman. People are phenomenal selves. People are empirical selves. So the population is 6 billion. So there are 6 billion people. There are 6 billion people means there's 6 billion empirical selves, 6 billion phenomenal selves. That's easy. That's just common sense, not even philosophy. But how many noumenal selves are there? Or how many transcendental egos are there? Are there 6 billion numinal selves? Or there's only one numinal self, of which all 6 billion phenomenal selves the appearances? Kant never thought about it. That's the problem. I mean, everything is the appearance of something. Every human being is the appearance of the self in itself. Every phenomenal self is the appearance of the noumenal self. I don't know myself really well. Well, maybe I'm a weird guy. That's why maybe I don't know myself well. I mean, people don't know me very well. Hey, I even don't know myself well. Well, not just because I'm strange, but no one knows himself or herself really. I mean, did you ever think about it? Do you know yourself well? You know something about you. You know something about yourself, but you don't know everything about you. You don't know what you really are in yourself. You only know how you appear to yourself. Okay? Well, you might say you know yourself better than other people know you. Yeah, maybe. Because they know how you appear to them. People know how you appear to them. People know how you outwardly appear. But you are the only one who knows how you inwardly appears to yourself. But whether other people know you as you outwardly appear, or you know yourself as you inwardly appear, they are both knowledge of appearances. You don't know who you are in yourself. You don't know who really you are. So, you know your phenomenal self, but you don't know your noumenal self. You don't know your real self. You don't know your transcendental ego. You know you have ego. Your ego exists. But you don't know what your ego really is. Hey, that's what Descartes says. I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I exist. I know I exist, but I don't know what the real essence of myself. That's same to you. You don't know yourself as much as you think you do. All right? Now, each one of us knows ourself only as we appear. Now, I'm an appearance. And same to you. Now, this is my phenomenal self. Now, as I said, there are 6 billion people, and there are 6 billion phenomenal selves. But the question is, are there 6 billion noumenal self as well? Or there's just one noumenal self, one self in itself, of which all phenomenal selves are appearances of? That's the question. In page, what is that? Okay, it says, for instance, on page 716, Bob has to have Bob's private noumenal self, and Henry has to have Henry's private noumenal self, and Margaret has to have Margaret's private noumenal self. That's the point. When you have obligations to others, like you may not punch someone. You may not punch someone. You may not use violence. You're taught by your parents, or you are taught by teachers. Don't hit anyone. Don't punch someone. Don't use violence. Violence is bad. Violence is evil. Violence is immoral. You go, okay, I don't. Okay, I don't hit anyone. I don't use violence. It's evil. It's immoral. But how do you know using violence is immoral? I mean, you punch someone, you slap someone. Is that immoral? Yeah, I mean, well, it's common sense, but can you prove logically punching someone is evil? Hitting someone is immoral? Can you prove it philosophically? Violence is evil? I mean, you may not hit someone. Yeah, that's common sense, but philosophically speaking, you don't really know why it's so bad to hit someone. Like if you don't like me, and even if you hit my face on your computer screen, I mean, it doesn't affect me. And all you're hitting is my image, which appears on your computer screen. See, it's a phenomenal self of me, phenomenal aspect of me. You're hitting, but you're not really hitting myself in itself. It doesn't affect me. So like punching someone's face, it's just like hitting the desk or hitting chair, because human being is just a phenomenon. Right? There's a phenomenal desk. There's a phenomenal chair. There's a phenomenal human being. And just punching someone phenomenally doesn't do any bad. But then Kant says, well, you may not hit someone or you may not kill someone because the human being has dignity. Human being is not just a tool. Human being is not just appearance. It has dignity. Okay, it has dignity. But, you know, there's some young kids who are really violent, who even kill other kids. And you tell them, or you arrest them, you tell them, oh, don't kill people. Killing people is so bad. It's immoral. But if the guy who killed maybe a few people, or maybe a dozen people, he said, well, what the hell is dignity? I can't stab someone because he has dignity? How do you know he has dignity? Hey, the one I killed, the guy I killed is just the same as the tree or the desk or a wall. I hit the wall. Is that evil? Just as I hit the wall. I just hit the guy. Just as I broke the chair. I killed the guy. Well, what's the difference? I mean, dignity. What the hell is dignity? He might say that. I mean, we common people with common sense say, well, killing is of course bad. But, I mean, Kant is not a common man. He's a philosopher. He's the greatest philosopher. So he has to prove philosophically that killing is bad. Killing is immoral. But to prove killing is evil, to prove human being has dignity, he has to prove that every human being has noumenal character. Each phenomenal self has his own noumenal self, which corresponds to his phenomenal self. So noumenal self should underlie every phenomenal self. Otherwise, just a simple phenomenon, just appearance, just image. If human being is just an image, appearance, it can't have dignity. All right? Does a desk have a dignity? Does a chair have a dignity? Does the whiteboard have a dignity? Or the white wall or whatever have dignity? Does the ceiling have dignity? They're all appearances. How about the human beings? Human beings just appearance too. Human beings just a phenomenon. What's so bad about killing someone? Well, I'm not encouraging you to kill anyone, of course not. But to prove, we may treat each human being with respect because he or she has dignity. We have to prove that every human being has the noumenal self, not just the phenomenal self. But the problem with Kant is if each one of 6 billion people, if each one of 6 billion phenomenal selves had the noumenal self or transcendental ego or transcendental unity of a perception, then there can be 6 billion laws to nature. Now Kant said, the mind is the lawgiver to nature. Yes, it is. But there's only one and the same law which rule the nature, in which we all live in. But if there are 6 billion noumenal selves, there can be 6 billion natural laws. So how can we live in the world which is ruled by 6 billion laws? There can be one law of nature, but there will be 6 billion laws of nature because there are 6 billion people living in this cosmos. There are 6 billion phenomenal selves. And to make Kant's moral philosophy valid, there must be 6 billion noumenal selves as well as 6 billion phenomenal selves. That's the problem. There can be only one law which rules whole nature. For there to be one law, there should be only one noumenal self, or one transcendental ego, or there must be only one transcendental unity of apperception for this cosmos to be ruled by one law. Really. But Kant never thought about it. That's the problem. How does he deal with the problem? He can't. Kant is the greatest philosopher. But he can't deal with the problem of many minds. One way to put it is that even though there are 6 billion noumenal selves and each one of them gives the law to nature, these 6 billion laws happen to be the same. If it happens to be the same, that 6 billion laws of nature are the same. If those 6 billion people or 6 billion noumenal selves gave one and the same nature, give one and the same law to the nature, everything's solved. But that's just accidental. I mean, 6 billion people give the 6 billion minds give the same law. It's just a lucky accident. It's possible, but it's just incidental. It's not necessary. What's the question of Kant? How a synthetic judgment knowable a priori? Well, I mean, cause and effect, law of causality is necessary. But then law of nature is just accidental, because if 6 billion numinal selves or 6 billion transcendental egos happen to give the same law to nature, it's just accident. So it's not necessary. Law of causality is not necessary. So Kant is said to have corrected the mistake Hume made. For Hume, there's no necessary connection between cause and effect. There's no necessity for nature of law. Okay, there's flame and there's heat. The flame is said to be cause. Heat is said to be effect. But according to David Hume, there's no necessary connection between cause and effect. There's no necessary connection or objective connection between flame and heat. How do you get the heat? Well, if you see the flame and you put your finger into flame, you feel heat. But it's not necessary that you feel heat. How do you connect the flame with heat? Well, after repeated observation of the heat coming after flame, you develop in your mind the habit to connect flame with heat. But there's no logical connection between flame and heat. There's no necessary connection, according to David Hume. It is a subjective habit of the mind which connects with flame with heat. It's a subject. I mean, after you have repeatedly saw or felt the heat, after you put your finger in the flame, you develop in your mind the habit to connect flame with heat. So it is a subjective habit of the mind which gives the objective structure of objective laws to nature. So according to Hume, it's a subjective habit of the mind which happens to fit in with objective constitution of nature. But Kant said, no. The law of nature is not accidental. It is not a lucky accident we live in this organized cosmos. Okay? Unlike Hume, who said it is a subjective habit of the mind which connects which makes the objective connection between cause and effect. For Kant, it is a subjective consciousness of the mind which necessarily connects cause and effect. It is the human mind which makes the objective structure of nature possible, according to Immanuel Kant. But what's that mind? Subjective consciousness. Well, what's that the consciousness? That consciousness, the consciousness of noumenal self, transcendental ego, not phenomenal self. But if there are 6 billion transcendental egos, if there are 6 billion noumenal selves, if there are 6 billion unities of a perception, cosmos will just become chaos. Kant tried to describe why cosmos is so well organized. There's order. There's also there are law and order of nature because the human beings gives law to nature. But what does he mean by human nature? That human. That's numinal self. But if there are 6 billion, as there are 6 billion people in this cosmos, if 6 billion numinal selves give that 6 billion laws, cosmos will again be chaos. But for his theory of moral to be valid, to prove using violence is bad, hitting someone's face is bad, punching someone's bad, killing someone's evil. Each human being has to have his own numinal self. I mean, for Kant's theory of knowledge to be valid, there can be room only for one numinal self. There can be room for only one transcendental ego. And all the 6 billion people are the appearances of the one and the same transcendental ego. Otherwise, cosmos would be chaos. But for his theory of morals to be valid, there must be as many numinal selves as there are phenomenal selves. So there must be 6 billion empirical selves. And likewise, there must be 6 billion selves in themselves. There must be 6 billion phenomenal selves. There must be 6 billion numinal selves. If there's only one numinal self, and every human being is the appearance of that same numinal self, you can really do nasty things to others because they're just images. And you're not really doing bad things to others. Even when you lie to someone, you're not really lying to him because he or she is also the appearance of the same self in itself, which underlies you. Because when you lie to someone, you're really lying to yourself. When you lie, and you know you lie, constantly lying is bad, but you're lying as a phenomenal self to another phenomenal self, which is also the appearance of you yourself. If every human being is just the appearance or image of the same one and the same transcendental ego, there's no such thing as being nasty to others. Other people are not other people. Other people just the appearances. Just as you are the appearance, other people and you are the appearance of the same numinal self. So no matter, you can never be nasty to other people. I mean, if you do something nasty to someone, even if you do something immoral, you're not doing anything bad. Well, he's just an image. All right. Some of you maybe didn't like what I said today, so some of you getting angry at me and what's this guy saying? I hate this guy, and you see me speaking on your computer screen and you just hit me, but you're not really hitting me. You're just hitting the computer screen, you hitting the image of me, just the appearance of me, just phenomenal aspect of me. It's not an immoral action. If you really meet me in person and hit me, that's really bad. But just hitting my image which appears on your computer screen is not evil, immoral, or anything. Well, it's just an image, just an appearance. So in order for immoral actions to take place, in order to say, oh, that attitude is immoral, that what you did is very against the morality, you have to prove that each human being, each phenomenal human being is the appearance of the noumenal self or moral self. Now, this is a very difficult matter. Even Kant, the greatest philosopher of the world, never really thought about. So I think I have to give another lecture, or maybe another 2 lectures on this problem of many minds. See, I skipped chapter 3, and chapter 3 was only, well, 3 or 4 pages, but this chapter 4 is really core of my book. So that's why I decided to spend lots of time with this chapter 4, the problem of many minds. And unless Kant can solve this problem of many minds, I mean, he really, his whole philosophy fails. And the Critique of Pure Reason is pretty much the book on epistemology, and he doesn't talk about morals in a Critique of Pure Reason. He talks about the morals. His theory of morals is introduced in the groundwork of a metaphysics of morals, but there is a contradiction, very serious contradiction between what Kant says in the Critique of Pure Reason and the groundwork of metaphysics of morals. I mean, his theory of knowledge in the Critique of Pure Reason, and his theory of morals in the groundwork of metaphysics of morals, I mean, each one of it is correct. Each one of them makes sense in its own regard, but they're not compatible. In order for his theory of knowledge to be valid, there can be only one noumenal self or transcendental ego. But in order for theory of morals to be valid, there must be as many noumenal selves or transcendental egos, or there must be as many moral selves as there are phenomenal selves. So Kant himself never thought of problems of many minds, or he never realized there's a contradiction between his epistemology and his ethics. So this is, as I said, a very difficult matter, and I have to spend lots of time on this subject. So lecture 6, I will continue to talk about this chapter of the problem of many minds. So for next lecture, lecture 6, just continue to read chapter 4, the problem of many minds. I will spend lots of time on this in lecture 6 and maybe in lecture 7 as well. So I hope to see you again. Just read chapter 4 of my Kant's philosophy of the self in the Critique of Pure Reason. More than 9,000 people have read it. And if you really want to understand my series of these lectures, if you really want to enjoy my videos as Jaden does, you just have to read my Kant's philosophy of the self very carefully. Okay, I'll see you again.